You're listening to the MotherToBaby Podcast, medications and more during pregnancy and breastfeeding. Ask the experts with your host, genetic counselor and mom of four, Chris Stallman.
This episode contains evidence-based information that's current as of the day recorded and may change as more data becomes available. Also, quick disclaimer. The opinions shared by our guests are their own and don't necessarily reflect the views of Otis MotherToBaby. To get the very latest information about this topic or other topics in pregnancy and breastfeeding, please contact a MotherToBaby specialist at 866-626-6847, by text at 855-999-3525, or through our website at mothertobaby.org. Welcome to another episode of the MotherToBaby Podcast. My name is Chris Stallman, and I'm a genetic counselor, a mom of four, and a teratogen information specialist. So what that means is that I talk to people, patients, family members, healthcare providers, about exposures that can happen before pregnancy, during pregnancy, while breastfeeding, and in cases of adoption. And an exposure can be anything. So it could be a chemical at your job. It could be a medication that you take, a condition that you have, sometimes even the food and the drink that we eat. But how do you know? How do you know if something is a good idea to have while you're pregnant or breastfeeding, or maybe not so much? Here to talk with us today about finding health information about exposures in pregnancy and breastfeeding is Bridget Maloney from the University of Arizona. Bridget, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
So Bridget, of course, you and I know each other very well, and we work together pretty closely, but can you give our audience some information about your background and your role?
Absolutely. I am a certified genetic counselor. In my role as a genetic counselor, I specialize in neurogenetics, so everything under that umbrella. And then I also work at MotherToBaby as a teratology information specialist.
Okay, so you are very knowledgeable on this topic and really happy to talk about it because there is a lot of information out there. Not all of it is health information. There's just a lot going on. But thinking about that, health information, exposures in pregnancy and breastfeeding, what are some of the challenges with finding information that we can trust and resources that we can understand?
In the age of engagement and wanting to get as many clicks as possible and wanting to keep people's attention, very often I think that translates into shock value and sensational information that we see.
Like the headlines, grabbing that attention. And the article may be different, but again, in the age of engagement, and attention spans might not be what they once were, and people might not read the article.
Right. Or if they do, it's snippets of it and maybe not the whole picture. Or, if you only have two sentences to get somebody's attention and get your point across, what are you going to say?
Right. It's got to have that bang value. Mm-hmm. And how that translates, is not always the intention.
Right. I agree.
And I think too that there's just a lot, the sheer volume of information. How do you sift through that? It's such an overload, right? And when you are preparing to be pregnant, or you are pregnant, or you're preparing to breastfeed, or you are breastfeeding, we seek information, right? Not everybody, but there's that thirst to know, am I doing it right? Is there something I shouldn't be doing? And when you have basically limitless information, that can be really hard to navigate. So when you're looking for information, thinking about websites as an example, what is the sign, or what are some signs that it might be good and reliable information?
For good and reliable information, I'm always looking for, one, if people are citing their sources, if there's some links to things that I can verify the claims that they're making. I like to see where people are getting their information from and kind of how that backs up. That's certainly the health expert in me and the healthcare provider in me. But that's certainly something that the general public can be doing as well, seeing what kind of sources are available in these websites. I think also avoiding some of those keywords, some of those very fad words can let me know that there's not as much bias, or maybe some information there's something that, if there's not an agenda or those keywords that drive that engagement factor.
So tell me, what would that look like? What are some of those buzzwords?
I think very often when we see anything about doctors don't want you to know this, or, or like the best kept secret. Yeah, the best kept secret. Or very often I see a lot of things about like regulating your hormones, which of course is important and is, a health concern for a lot of people. But I think sometimes things like that get kind of turned into a fad, where people are now just saying regulate your hormones without actually providing any information about what an imbalanced hormones might look like or how that affects your health or anything like that. But then it kind of gets that fire going of people being like, is this something I have to be worried about? Well, then how do I combat that, and so on.
I think that's a big part of the issue, that some of the content out there, certainly not all, can play up anxieties and insecurities, and again, it's not wrong to engage with the content, but we just want to make sure that people are getting the best information they can.
Absolutely.
So you can always talk with your provider, certainly.
Yes.
Because there may be recommendations not only that they have, or ones that come from trusted organizations that they belong to, organizations of medical professionals, organizations of research experts, So you might need to do a little digging. You might need to try a couple of different places, but your provider is always a good place to start. And of course, it would be remiss of me not to say we at MotherToBaby also can provide some
we are happy to help, of course.
We absolutely are. We absolutely are. Thinking about very specific platforms. So social media platforms where you're only getting 15 seconds, 30 seconds, 2 minutes of engagement. I don't want to call out any apps by name, but thinking about that type of content, is there a way to navigate through that information, right? Like, should I believe every reel that I see, or are there things in particular that I'm looking for when I'm going through? Because I'm not going to lie, I'm going to go through that content.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? I tell people not to Google and stuff like that, and I did that in my pregnancies, right? So it would be wrong to be like, you shouldn't do that. I don't suggest it, right? But in case you do it, right? What are some things we should be looking for or looking out for?
I think the allure of those is certainly that it's accessible to everybody, right? They're in these very digestible snippets. And I don't think it's inherently wrong to search out information on those platforms.
Sure.
Like MotherToBaby is on TikTok.
Yeah, hang on. We're on all the platforms.
We are. And we're providing information that is factual, non-judgmental, things like that. So there are certainly resources out there for people to access on social media sites. So not inherently going to be incorrect if you're looking on social media. But definitely looking out for some of that sensationalization. I think, I've seen a lot of influencers who are also healthcare providers who are, doing this public health advocacy work on their social medias, making sure that they're linking their sources and making sure that they're also mentioning to talk with a healthcare provider or talk with, the other specialists in their life that are managing their health and their concerns, can also be really beneficial and can help you sort of sort through that. I think it's always important to do your background research as well. Every time I see something pop up on my social media pages and I'm like, wow, that's really interesting, I want to tell people about this in my life, I have to take a step back. I had to kind of learn that, but take a step back and say, okay, let me Google this. Yeah. Let me see what I can find. Is this something that's just existing here, or are there other reports of it? Are there news networks reporting on this, depending on the topic? Right. So kind of verifying those sources as well can be beneficial, which is really hard. We kind of fall into the snowball though of there's so much information. Yeah, there's so much information. We're talking about how there's so many conflicting sources. When you look up those things, it might make it even more complicated.
Completely. So on that vein of so much information, what tips, tricks, advice, best practices would you give to people who feel overwhelmed just by the sheer amount of information? Not even the content. Yeah. The content's not even scary. It's just, there's so much.
Yeah. I always say take a breath. Yeah. That's the biggest thing. Disconnect a little bit. Because
put down the phone.
Yes. As a Gen Zer, that's, definitely my downfall. But we can get so absorbed in, plugging in and trying to just absorb all of it, as opposed to taking a step back, thinking about what we're feeling and thinking about, what information we're actually looking for can be really helpful. Reflecting on, what do I want to get out of this? And what information am I actually looking for? Yeah. Am I finding information that is supporting some of my, my preconceived ideas, the ideas I already had in my mind, or am I looking for information that's going to clarify questions that I had? Can be really, really helpful.
Sure.
always talking with other people as well. Family and friends can help you sort through some of those emotions as well. May have, references of, I think you should talk to your doctor about this, or I know of this really great website that you can, look for information. They have, verifiable resources and things like that as well.
Yeah, and not being afraid to take what you've seen back to MotherToBaby, back to your healthcare provider, because it's too, when you said, I want to know what other people are seeing, I do too, right? Even if it's something that, our research or our knowledge is a little bit different, I want to know what you're seeing, right? Because I want to be able to help you with the information that I have as well. And
Absolutely.
I think that it needs to be a balance to some degree. I mean, certainly you can get good information from any source, but knowing that, and again, seeing how that actually applies to you. You might see some supplements for pregnancy, but you don't have anything that you need to take a supplement for.
Right.
Thinking about what's out there versus how it could best apply to you and your pregnancy and your life.
Sure. It's certainly not a one size fits all. And I think very
No
often
way.
this content can be presented in that way because they're trying
Absolutely.
to reach such a large audience and get that engagement.
Absolutely. So Bridget, before I let you go, one final question and, any final thoughts that you want to leave with the audience. So this is going to be kind of an easy one, I think, but definitely interested to hear some other ideas. So where would you suggest people turn for reliable information on exposures in pregnancy and breastfeeding?
Well, of course, MotherToBaby. Of course, talk with your healthcare providers. They'll have a lot of resources for you. And then MotherToBaby, we have collections of course, this podcast, as well as baby blogs and fact sheets. We have over 300 fact sheets on various different exposures and different topics. And, before pregnancy, during pregnancy, before breastfeeding, during breastfeeding, all of those things.
Dad's exposures.
Dad's exposures as well. Yeah.
We see that a lot. There's a lot more of that I've seen on social media where they're like, okay, well, we know about females in pregnancy. What about men? What about dads?
Yeah. So we certainly cover that with the information we have. Data's still emerging for a lot of
course.
things, but we absolutely cover it in those fact sheets as well. So those are a great resource, super digestible, available in English and Spanish and even some in French for folks.
Yeah.
And they're written to be really accessible by the public and by providers. So really, really helpful for everybody there. And then you can also talk with a MotherToBaby teratology information specialist. We have phone, we have text, we have chat, we have email. So kind of whatever way people are most comfortable with. And we're happy to chat about any sort of exposures and what that looks like, talking through the information that people might find and, what information we have and how we make the statements that we make and things like that.
Absolutely. And it's a cool thing too, because sometimes people just want to call to double check. I get that quite a bit. No question is off limits.
Sure.
We're here to answer absolutely anything. And, sometimes you just need that, okay, well, I knew that, answer. I just want to confirm with you, or I wanted to double check, because pregnancy, breastfeeding, there's so much to it, and it's so important. And, people are so invested in what I want to tell people is, no question is dumb.
Yeah.
No question is dumb, right? Because we are all still learning, but also you're doing a good job. You're out there struggling, you're living that day to day, and I'm not pregnant anymore, but I have been, and I know that it can be hard to remember that you are out there doing a good job. And I'm so grateful that there's folks like you, Bridget, who are out there helping people continue to make the decisions that are best for them. So thank you for being you. Thank you for your work. And most of all, thank you for being on the podcast today.
Thank you very much for having me. Always a pleasure.
Can't wait to have you back in the future.
Thank you.
And that's going to do it for this episode of the MotherToBaby podcast. Be sure to hit that subscribe button so that way you never miss a new episode. And you can go back and listen or re-listen to some of those older episodes as well. You can find us on iTunes, Spotify, Audible, or however you like to listen to podcasts. And if you want to be on the podcast, or if you have an idea for the show, we would love to hear from you. Please feel free to email us at contact@mothertobaby.org. And MotherToBaby is here to answer your questions about exposures before and during pregnancy, while breastfeeding, or if you have questions about exposures and adoption. You can reach us by phone at 866-626-6847. by text at 855-999-3525. You can visit us on our website, MotherToBaby.org, and there you can chat with an information specialist. You can look at our many blogs, information pages, our hundreds of fact sheets that are available free in English and in Spanish. And you can also listen to our podcast or find out how you can participate in our pregnancy studies. If you would like to support the Mother to Baby podcast, as well as all of the ways we get critical pregnancy and breastfeeding health information to you at home, we have a new way to do just that. Encircle is our new monthly giving society that helps ensure we can continue to provide our services at no cost. Join the community today and encircle parents and babies in health. Members will be recognized on the podcast and website. Visit mothertobaby.org/donate today. Until next time, remember, Mother to Baby is here for you. Take care.
Mother to Baby is a service of the nonprofit organization of Teratology Information Specialists and supported by the Health Resources and Service Administration of the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. It's made possible through generous donations from listeners like you. To learn more about Mother to Baby, please visit mothertobaby.org.